The Indian public broadcaster is around, India is around for the last 70 years. And public broadcast, which began as a state broadcast and then converted itself into public broadcast in the last 2 decades, has completed its initial task. And that task was to make India come true. You see, when we attained independence in 1947, we were 600 kingdoms and 14 huge countries or nations or provinces. Today, India is one. And in that, the public broadcast, the public communicator, or at that time it was a state communicator, they did excellent. They formed the lingua franca. If today, so that part is over. To introduce India to Indians, different parts of India, that part is over. So there's a total consciousness amongst all Indians as to what constitutes India. So there is a bit of a my role is over feeling. Now, so the biggest problem now is to find the next role. The next role would lie in not getting exasperated at private competition, colorful channels, but to continue its various very straightforward, non-sensational, matter-of-fact news. Now, the moment we took that up, then we found a lot of viewers coming over from the private channels to watch this, what they call the non-sensational bread and butter news. So that is direly needed, because India is practically a capitalist economy. So all the private media houses have some slant or the other. There's not one that doesn't have a slant. So in this cacophony of different voices, opinions, people look towards a mediator. So that is the biggest challenge. To come out of the feeling that it was under state control. In other words, it was one more voice, at one time the dominant voice, and now to become the voice of sobriety. It is the oldest kid on the block. So it can't pretend that it's an adolescent or a teenager. It can't behave like them. At the same time, it shouldn't behave like a dinosaur. It shouldn't behave like an old bear. So it has to have fresh faces, which we have now. And whenever you get fresh blood, fresh faces, there's an immediate public reception to it. I had a 5-year tenure, and during that entire tenure, I had to keep saying that you forget the legacy of state broadcasting. We started getting in young kids from the private media who came in with a different mindset, and we tried turning around the whole thing. But the first thing is to distance yourself from the state. But unfortunately, the constitution of the setup is in such a way that you depend upon the state for direct funding, about 55-60%. Now, there's a way out. We have enough resources to cover the gap. But the only problem is, then Parliament would have to agree. So there has to be a national consensus that half the funding of the public broadcaster will not come directly from the state, from the government. The BBC gets it practically directly from Parliament. The NHK gets it from the government. So if you get government funding, then there is, even if you are neutral, there are fingers pointed out. Keep hammering at credibility, keep hammering at autonomy, even if it makes you unpopular among the bureaucrats. Remembering at the end of the day, India has almost lost its faith in the bureaucracy. So if they take you on, you're one step higher.